Remember, the Muslims were in France in the 600s already. In the late 600s, the Muslims were already in France. They'd invaded Spain, they'd gone through Spain, they were in France in the 690s. Now, are you going to tell me the French had invaded the Middle East in the 600s and this was revenge? No. They were only kicked out in 732, 20 kilometers from Paris. Okay, they got to within 20 clicks of Paris in 732. This is long before the colonizing went on. Okay, Islam is a conquering religion. It's a conquest. It's a revolutionary religion. Hey, Nicholas, welcome. Good to see you, man. Thank you. Okay, now this is World War II casualties. Poland, just during the war itself, lost 17.2% of its population. Okay, to the Russians and the Germans, of course. And after the war, they lost even more. They lost about 20% of their population. I live in Poland, by the way. The Soviet Union lost 25 million people, 14.2%. Now, this was not caused by the Catholic Church. I know someone's going to come and try and tell me it was, but anyway, this was a secular war. This is World War II. This is a lot of deaths, and this had nothing to do with the Church of the Lamb that's on the corner of your street. Okay, thoughts, Thaddeus, before I go on?
Well, you're forgetting, though, that Italy was involved in the war, which we all know is synonymous with the Catholic Church. So anything Italy's involved in, that's a religious war.
I guess so. Yeah, Putin the Christian attacked Ukraine. Well, yeah, all those Muslims. Yeah, yeah, never anything. Now, 20th century dictators. Now, notice how these lists differ here. The numbers differ, okay? Because someone's always trying to whitewash and downplay the numbers, okay? 20 million in the Soviet Union. Look at this list. 43 million. 65 million in China, okay, 37 million. Do you notice these numbers are all over the place because no one really knows because these governments didn't keep. Now, notice the vast majority of these are atheist governments. Atheism in government kills. When atheists get government, they slaughter people, okay? Now, Joseph Stalin, okay, these numbers could be much, much higher. Mao Zedong, okay, the worst governments that have caused the worst atrocities and killed the most people are all socialist atheist governments. Understand, the worst atrocities in history by governments are by socialist atheist governments. Okay, we can argue obviously Adolf Hitler was not an atheist, and Hideki Tojo we could maybe say was a Shintoist. He might have been an atheist. Hell, I don't know. But the rest, as you can see, it's overwhelmingly atheist. Comments, studies?
Yeah, and the whenever this is raised against atheism, or not really even against atheism, but
Mm-hmm.
just in response to the atheists saying that religion is responsible for violence, they say those were governments, not atheists. That wasn't done in the name of atheism, or something along those lines. Which, of course, the so-called religious wars were done by governments too. So I don't know why it counts when it's against when it's a quote unquote Christian government doing it, and it doesn't count when it's an atheist government
Yeah.
doing it.
Actually, no, so the dudes asks, actually, Villainous asks, yeah, no, thank you, Thaddeus. No. Well, socialist, 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 socialist. I have no idea if this guy was a socialist or not. I have no idea. But, I mean, he was certainly their buddy. He was their ally. But socialist, 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 they were all socialists except maybe this guy, Hideki Tojo. So they're all socialists. Let's continue. Okay, 170 million murdered. This is death by government. I just managed to get a copy of this book today, a couple of hours ago, in fact, so I haven't had time to go through it. But let's have a look. Okay, so he speaks here of the Soviet slave labor system created by Lenin and built up under Stalin in 70 years, likely chewed up almost 40 million lives. Now that's a lowball number. Well over twice as many has probably died in some 400 years of the African slave trade, from capture to sale in an Arab, Oriental, and New World market. In total, during the first 88 years of the 20th century, almost 170 million men, women, and children have been shot, beaten, tortured, knifed, burned, starved, frozen, crushed, or worked to death, buried alive, drowned, hung, bombed, or killed in any of the myriad ways governments have inflicted death on unarmed, helpless civilians and foreigners. The dead could conceivably be nearly 360 million people in the 20th century during the socialist atheist experiment. Your thoughts, Thaddeus?
Yeah, and they can say that this is by governments all they want. That'll be the typical atheist response, is that this was done by a government or done by a dictator or whatever. But it seems to be almost 100% of communist, socialist governments have done this, and only 1% of
Yeah.
non-communist governments. There seems
So
to be a correlation. That's all I'm
now here's a
saying.
question: is it compulsory to be an atheist if you join the Communist Party? Yes, no, and the answer is spoiler alert: yes. Atheism is compulsory if you're a communist. If you join the Communist Party, you want to be part of that, you must be an atheist. I thought atheism leads to reason, but apparently it leads to genocide. So beware atheist governments. Individual atheists like Christians and other people often do good, but atheist rulers such as Lenin, Hitler, Stalin, Mao Zedong, no, Hitler, sorry, not an atheist, very likely not an atheist, and Pol Pot, they tortured, starved, and murdered more people in the 20th century than all the combined religious regimes of the entire world during the previous 19 centuries. This is not an exaggeration. By the modest estimates of a BBC war audit, I've shown the document on my channel, in 2004, atheist rulers killed as many as 110 million people. Now notice again, lowballing the number. At least 60 million in the Soviet Union and its satellites, 40 million in China, 15 million in Nazi Germany, 2 million in Cambodia, socialists at least, right? And 5 million elsewhere. This is Jeffrey Burton Russell. I have his book. I just got his book a couple of days ago. So, yeah. So this is all historically verifiable. Everyone just knows that religion is the cause of like all wars according to the general narrative. Yes. Now notice also, everyone, I love these stories, Stalin was a Christian, okay? Stalin was expelled from a Georgian Orthodox seminary at the age of 19 or 20. He was never a Catholic or even Russian Orthodox. Georgia had its own church of which he was a member by baptism. So in fact, he was kicked out because he was a socialist. He actually rejected, because he was rejecting the Christian training he was getting, at least the religious training he was getting, because he was far more interested in the ideas of Lenin and the ideas of Engels and the ideas of Marx. So he rejected that as a joke and he decided to leave. He got kicked out. Okay. In fact, he claims he left. So atheism is a fundamental rule of the Communist Party. Your comments, Thaddeus?
Well, if anyone wants to say that Stalin was a Christian because he was born into a Christian family, or at least nominally Christian family, then I would just say, well, by your definition, to the atheist making this claim, I bet you that you're a Christian too, because the vast majority of atheists were not born into atheist families; they were born into Christian families. So, by their own definition, since whatever you're born as counts forever, then I guess they are still a Christian.
Fair enough. I mean, look, they're going to have to go to any length they can to claim, obviously, that they lack responsibility.